The Dental Brief is brought to you by Omni Premier Marketing and the amazing guests who bring wisdom and advice that you can put to use to take your business and practices to the next level. Find us on Facebook and join the conversation. Get ready to grow because we are kicking off the next episode in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Brief. So excited to be back with our fall season. So excited for the lineup that we've got going on. So excited for our guest today. Without any further wait, Dr. Jeff Anzalone, say hello to everyone.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. I'm glad you're on the program today. I'm excited for what we're going to talk about today. I'm always thrilled when doctors come on the program to share and help other doctors. So I want to thank you for doing that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right into your background a little bit. You're a periodontist. Tell me kind of about your background. How'd you get involved in dentistry? What made you want to be a dentist?
I had a pretty bad accident when I was 7 years old, actually a day before I turned 8. You know how you always tell your kids don't play with fire? Well, I guess I didn't get the memo because my friend and I started like a little fire in a neighbor's backyard, and he saw this red canister, which he didn't really know what that did. And when he poured gas on it, flamed up, got second-degree burns all on my legs. And, before that, I'd just gone to the pediatrician every now and then, but I had to wind up staying in the hospital for 2 weeks with the plastic surgeon. And he was just great. And at that point, I think I kind of was like, hey, I'd like to do something where, in the healthcare field, and then I have some relatives and friends that are dentists, and they, I kind of saw the lifestyle with being able to coach and spend more time traveling and kids and that sort of thing. So that's ultimately why I chose dentistry.
Yeah. And it seems like you've kind of chosen a path here to help other doctors with it's more applicable than others. Your website's a debt-free doctor. Doctor is abbreviated, so debtfreedr.com. Tell me what led you down this path. How did you end up helping doctors with this very relevant issue?
Well, I actually started off with teaching people about that. That's hence the name Debt-Free Doctor. I was on the Dave Ramsey track. I got screwed out of a job 2 weeks before I finished my residency. We had $300,000 student loans, a 2-month-old. We'd already bought a house, and it was interest-only loan. Now I didn't have a job, and the worst part is, they don't teach you how to run a practice or business. So that really got me into survival mode and scarcity mode. And I was mowing yards on the side. I used to mow yards in college. So I'm mowing yards as a periodontist. I'm working out of all these different offices, trying to build my practice, trying to learn. So it was rough, but I was able to follow those steps. And then after 7 years, paid off all the debt, including the house, that's when I started that blog. And I was teaching people what I did. But I pivoted. Sorry about that.
You're good.
But I pivoted after that from a snow skiing accident in your neck of the woods in Beaver Creek, our favorite place to go, and hurt my wrist. Fell down, and that was kind of like, okay, never thought about what would happen if I couldn't practice, because everything was relying on that one income stream.
Right.
They don't teach you that in dental school,
Right.
So I was looking at ways, because your disability policy is crap. It's not going to pay for anything, and it may pay for the lights to be on and maybe a private school or something, but other than that, it's not enough to keep your lifestyle. So I had to do something where if something were to happen to me, we would still have income coming in. I think
Right.
A lot of people got a wake up call during COVID when they got shut down. It was like, it's like it's real. And I went through all of this information and months, and I found 2 things that stood out. Number one, these are like really, really wealthy people. They invest in real estate. At the time, I had 0. And then number 2, they have multiple income streams. Most dentists don't invest in real estate and only have one income stream. So that narrowed my focus down. So then as I was learning about real estate and the active real estate and passive real estate and all these different things, I just started blogging about it, making YouTube videos. Now I'm on Instagram, just teaching people about it. And here's the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, but now that I've done this long enough, I've had people that I've spoken with like a year or two ago. They'll email me back and go, Jeff, we talked last year. I've got more questions for you. And I had this over and over. I'm like, well, it's kind of like a dental practice. Somebody comes to you for an implant, that they're coming to you for an implant. You tell them about the process and everything, but nobody ever gets treatment. And that happens over and over. You're like, well, obviously I'm doing something wrong. And what I realized was they were like most people look for the result. They're looking for the passive income. They're looking for the house. They're looking for the cars. They're looking for the 6-pack app, whatever. But they haven't yet created the person yet with the mindset, with the discipline, with the actions, whatever, to get the result.
Right.
And because of that, I was just assuming that everybody had the mindset and the thinking like me because they were coming to me, but I was wrong. So now I'm helping people, I'm coaching people. Start with that first before you do anything else.
Right. I want to get a lot to unpack here. It's going to be a lot of fun. And again, I thank you for coming on here. So one of the things that I tell dentists, I tell people this, not just dentists, I tell people that are in real estate this, I tell physicians this, I tell accountants this. If you have to go to work in order to make an income, in other words, you have to go do the actual work yourself. If you have to drill and fill, if you have to do people's taxes, if you have to show homes, you don't own a business, you own a job. There's a difference between the two. And a lot of people are insulted like that or insulted by it because a lot of people want to own a business, right? There's a lot of glamour and prestige and pride that goes into owning a business. And I can tell you right now, in my own business, since I still have to be involved in day-to-day operations, I still in part own a job until I get to a place, hopefully very soon, where I don't have to be involved in day-to-day operations, where I can leave for a month and my income wouldn't change and clients wouldn't be upset, right? If things wouldn't fall through the cracks, that's when I own a business, right? So real estate is very different from that. If you invest in real estate or if you invest in the stock market and you own 100 shares of Apple, you actually own part of Apple. You own part of that business, right? Do you agree with that kind of philosophy? Yep. So getting to a place where you don't have to work to earn income is golden for a lot of reasons, right? Because you don't have to work in order to have income. And I think what you're saying is one of the easy ways to get there is through owning real estate, right?
That's one of many ways. It takes a type of thinking.
Yeah. But so tell me, how can you own real estate? And I know the answer to this. It's a loaded question, but how can you, or it's a rhetorical question, but I think this is important for people to know. How can you own real estate without having to clean out rentals or having to chase down rent payments and that sort of thing? What's one of the ways that you can do that?
Well, I went to a meeting in Dallas to find that out. I went to a meeting thinking that I was going to learn how to find a house. I want to start with a house in my area, rent it out, get a property manager, maybe Airbnb and all that stuff. But when I went there, I realized it was everything they were teaching was passive. Nothing. I never heard of that before. I never heard of a syndication. I'd heard of a REIT, Vanguard REITs, Real Estate Investment Trust, but I never heard of syndication or hard money loans or, all this stuff. It was just a new world to me. And, as a dentist, our biggest wealth building tool is our income. And what I find is once they start taking their time away from that, and I want to go and look for houses, I got to go and deal with this tenant at 2 a.m. My nurse anesthetist, she had a plumbing leak like at 2 a.m. She got 3 kids and her husband was out of town. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Most people don't want to deal with that. We deal with patients all day long that are bitching and complaining about they hate going to the dentist, and then you want to deal with tenants. You spend your time where you make the most money. And for most people, most dentists, it's doing dentistry. So once you get out of the mindset that we've been led to believe by financial planners that we have to our goal is to get a big pile of money at the end, and their goal is to get you to work as long as possible so they can take as many trips off the fees they're charging you. That is it's a great model. I mean, it is what it is. But once you get out of the mindset of not having to have this big pile of money that when you draw off of it, it depletes, instead having a river of income that coming in every month. And once you spend all that, the next month that river keeps flowing. Again, it takes a different way to, as you know, to think about money. And once you get in that mindset, you don't have to worry about running out of money. And people say, oh my gosh, look at the economy, look at the inflation. Well, if you have a dental practice and your vendor, your implant vendor goes up, $50 an implant, what are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to pass it to the consumer. Thus,
Right.
You're not as concerned with inflation.
But usually not till a year or two later, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's always behind. Yeah.
But if you own real estate, same thing. You don't have to worry as much about inflation because what? You can raise the rents. You can do different things to keep up with inflation. Not making more money off of these people, but this is a way. Plus, what happens to real estate over time? Does it go up or go down? It
Right.
goes up. So all of these things really helps. And again, you can buy businesses, and be like a silent partner or whatever. There's other things to do, but I'm focused more on in taking your money instead of sticking it in a 401k that you can't touch till you're 60, investing now because you never know what tomorrow may hold.
Yeah. Tell me, tell in our audience, I don't know, quite honestly, I know what a REIT is, but what is a real estate syndication?
Real estate syndication is nothing more than a group investment. So you, me, other people, we're, quote, passive investors, we're limited partners, and we pool our money together with a general partner or a sponsor. They're the ones that do everything. They find the deal, they'll find the RV park or the mobile home park or apartment or whatever. They get the financing, they buy the property, they close it, they manage the tenants, and then the only thing that we have to do is provide the capital.
Right.
In return, we start getting passive income, typically on a quarterly basis. And what we've been doing is investing to replace our expenses. And once you have assets that are paying for your liabilities, your work is optional.
So there's always some risk with investing, even in real estate. Real estate historically always goes up in price.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It always has, I think, every 10 years, right? There's never been a 10-year period of time where I think real estate's actually dropped in general. But with knowing that there's always some risk in any type of investment, what are some things that you can do to limit or mitigate your risk in real estate investing?
Anything in life, people can get this through their heads. Once I read the book, Who Not How, that's when it clicked for me because most people ask the how question. I was asking, how do I start a blog? How do I start a YouTube channel? How do I do Instagram? How do I invest in real estate? And if you ask how questions, it takes a lot of time. And if you've been told that time is money, you've been lied to. Time is more important than money. Why? You can make more money. Can you make more time? No. That's why you see the ultra wealthy, the billionaires, what do? They have a private chef. They have a driver. They have assistants. They have all that. Why? Because they buy back their time. But what do most people do? They mow their own freaking yard. They wash their own car. They clean their own house because they think they're selling them. They think they're saving money. So again, it's just a different way to think about money. Instead, I'm not going to pay $40 for an hour somebody do my yard unless you enjoy it. I'm going to buy back that time.
Yep.
And it's a different way to think about how that works.
Yep, you're 100% right about that. I will say that this is kind of a little off subject, but I enjoy mowing my lawn. I have a very small yard, but I really enjoy it. I paid people to do it for that reason. Hey, I make more money per hour than I pay them. So it makes more sense for me to actually work as opposed, doing what I do for a living as opposed to mowing my lawn. But then I started to realize there is something a little therapeutic about mowing my lawn. Nobody bugs me. Nobody will bother you when you're pushing a lawnmower. It's the funniest thing. So, for that reason, I started doing, but you're 100% right. What are the tasks on a daily basis that you're doing that you could be giving to somebody else where you could be, making more money or enjoying more of your free time, right? Or having more free time. I think that's really important. I haven't read that book. I'm going to put it on my list. I think it's probably a great book. And I think there's always ways.
So the point of that was we're asking the wrong questions. We're asking how. You find a who. You find somebody, you ask about real estate. You find somebody that is successful in real estate that's already doing what you find whoever has what you want. They have the body that you want. Well, if you hang around somebody that's all ripped and cut up and you go work out with him and he goes, okay, we're going to go eat. And you go eat and you're like, well, what do you want? Well, I have what he's having. And you eat like him. And eventually you're going to look like that. Or, somebody that's wealthy real estate, you start, so you get them to help you, to mentor you, or you get into groups where they're doing that.
Yeah.
You're going to pay more money. And that's what people complain about. But what are you doing? You're taking it from a year, 2 years, 5 years to like months, maybe even weeks. You're again, it's your time value of money. You're learning it now. Again, like those people that were calling me, it's been a year, 2 years, they still haven't done anything. Instead of taking a month or two and learning it and getting somebody to teach them it, now I had somebody the other day that we recently did had an RV park syndication, and she wired her money, and she said, I need a letter. I updated my letter of accreditation, big accredited investor. But the way that our system is, you have to have one that's at least 3 months old. It can't be older than 3 months old for your first investment. Okay. So she says, and I can't believe her accountant was charging her $800. You can get it free online.
Yeah.
But then I found out that they lived in California, so it made perfect sense. But anyway, $800 to write a letter of accreditation. So she emails me back and she says, had I known, I've already wired the funds. Had I known I'd have had to pay $800, I probably wouldn't have done this.
Right.
So that was her thinking that, okay, I'm going to keep this $50,000 in the checking account because that's where it was, earning zero. So instead of paying $800 to have access to somebody that could potentially double her money in 5 years, I'm going to keep it in a checking account instead.
Right.
Again, that just shows you how people are with money. That person will always stay poor until she changes her mindset.
Yeah. I want to talk about getting out of debt a little bit and debt-free doctor. I think right now we're seeing, dentists coming out with $600,000, $800,000 in student loans. It's a huge amount of money. We're seeing people start practices where they still owe $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 in student loans, and they borrow another $600,000 to do a startup or maybe even more to buy a practice. So significant amount of debt. I want to ask, or actually, let me say this first. When you look at the cost of something, you have to multiply what you lost by not investing that money to actually figure out what the cost of it is, right? So when you look at a Porsche 911 at $100,000, you buy it for $100,000, you borrow $100,000. It doesn't cost you $100,000 plus the interest. It literally costs you $100,000 every 7 years, right? Because money doubles every 7 years. So in 14 years, it costs you $200,000, or I'm sorry, $400,000. And doing quick math, and 2 years after that, it doubles again, right? So now that car costs you $400,000. So if you're 30 and you buy a 911, you could potentially miss out on $2.5 million worth of wealth by buying that car instead of investing that money instead, right? I hope people follow that. I know I don't do this for a living by any means. I'm not a professional at it, so I know it's a bit sloppy, but hopefully people understand what I'm getting at there. So if you can get out of debt, you can actually have more cash to invest, right, in real estate, other types of things. So how do you get out of debt? What's the easiest, most painless way to get out of debt, or is there no painless way to do it?
Well, I've changed again. I've changed my thinking because back when I did it, all I knew was one way, the Dave Ramsey way, the debt snowball. And now I think differently because he was like, all debt is bad, get out of debt, including your house. Well, that may take some people 15, 20 or years or longer.
Yeah.
I think it just depends on the person. If you're not willing to invest in yourself and learn about all the things that we're talking about, then yeah, that's probably the approach you should take. Just bust your butt, continue living like a student, and along the way, learn how things work, learn how money works, learn how taxes work. It's very, very important. Or again, find people that will teach this to you. So that the best way that I can answer this is the way that I did it. The way that I did it, like I said, was I just busted my butt to pay that off. But now, if I could go back, what I would do differently, knowing what I know now, had I had the knowledge that I had, and I would approach it like I do now with all my liabilities. My assets pay for my liability. My trailer park in South Louisiana pays the mortgage on this house, not me.
Right.
So that's again, but if you're like, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, then if you don't know how to do that, learn. And while you're learning, pay down your debt, bust your butt, pay down your debt, and just live in that, you know, dental student or medical student. You're already used to living like that. Just keep doing it. And then one day you can invest a whole lot more money.
Yep. So I'm going to encourage the audience, check out your website, debtfreedr.com, debtfreedoctor.com, and to reach out to you as well. Dr. Anzalone, what's the best way to get a hold of you or a member of your team if you want to learn more?
Yeah, I was telling you before we started this, my kids have gotten me into Instagram, so they can follow me there, and I'm pretty active on there, so they can DM me there. It's at Dr. Jeff Anzalone, which actually it's on my website too, how to connect with me there. And that's probably the easiest way to do it. I'm active on it pretty much daily.
Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thanks for having me.